Hello and welcome to the first PowerPoint presentation we have for the semester on a very serious topic that involves a lot of students, and that is the topic of plagiarism. Plagiarism is one of those things that we unfortunately need to talk about at the beginning of the semester because we do have essays that need to be written. And unfortunately, some students fall into the trap of plagiarizing, whether intentionally or unintentionally. And hopefully this little presentation will help us to avoid doing such things in this course and future courses. So what is plagiarism? Well, as defined by the most recent Jackson State catalog, plagiarism is when a student uses another writer's words or ideas without crediting the original author as a source. Plagiarism may be committed intentionally or unintentionally, and unintentional plagiarism is just as serious an offense as intentional plagiarism. So that means there's not any excuse for not knowing the rules. Whether you commit plagiarism intentionally or unintentionally, you're still going to be treated the same way. So it's important to know what the rules are. What is included in plagiarism? Well, if you copy and paste material from a website or other sources into your paper, if you buy a paper online, pay a friend to write a paper for you, turn in a paper a friend or parent has written for you, or an enemy, don't know why, but hey, go figure. If you get an idea that you use in a paper by reading another source without mentioning that source in your paper, or if you use a paper from another class. These are all considered examples of plagiarism. So we're going to talk about how to avoid it, because I'm sure most of you, at least 98% of you, don't necessarily want to plagiarize. Most of the times it is because you are ignorant of the rules, have not been taught how to avoid plagiarism, or just simply have been taught that it was acceptable in the past, and so you continue doing it in the present. Well, first we want to make sure that we understand that in any paper that you write, your ideas should always be the star of your own paper. In other words, we don't want a collection of research from other people unless it's there to back up your idea, your thesis. And as such, quotes and paraphrases and summaries that you use from other sources should be used in a very small amount. You want to select the material you put in your papers carefully. You want to make sure all these ideas have been integrated in a logical fashion. Don't just put a quote in there or paraphrase something from another source because you think it's interesting. Make sure it has a reason to be there. You don't want to overquote. Quoting too much can sometimes be considered plagiarism. I'm going to show you an example of that later on. You only want to use direct quotations when the author's wording is necessary. Sometimes there can be a quotation which is like, a page long, and you can sum up that idea in a much shorter manner, and probably in a much clearer manner. So you only want to use direct quotations when the author's wording is really necessary. Most of the time, it's more effective to just go with a paraphrase or a summary of the idea. You want to begin at the note-taking stage. Okay? When you start doing any research for any papers that you do, you want to make sure that you take careful notes. And I know for some of you, this is like, well, I don't really need to because I'm doing internet research and the research is already there. But that's where you come into having problems because you start looking back and forth between the paper, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and eventually you just say, oh, well, I'll just copy this whole paragraph in here and reword it. You don't want to do that. Take notes on what you are reading and put them into your own words as you go. And do that so that when you get to the writing of your paper stage, you already have the material in your own words that you can then incorporate that idea in a clearer fashion into your paper. And that way, you won't fall victim to close paraphrasing. Now, in either of those cases where you use a quote or if you paraphrase or summarize, you still need an in-text citation and you still need an entry on the works cited page. But if you've taken notes, it'll make it easier so that you're not doing close paraphrasing. So what is paraphrasing? Paraphrasing is when you restate the author's ideas in your own words. And there's right ways and there's wrong ways to do it. So let's look at some different ways to avoid what's called close paraphrasing. Close paraphrasing is a form of plagiarism, and so it's important to understand that. Let's say we had this original source here by an author whose last name is Davis, and we found this information on page 26 of their book or magazine. Let's say their quote was this: "If the existence of a signing ape was unsettling for linguists, it was also startling news for animal behaviorists." Well, can we just say in our own paper, the existence of a signing ape unsettled linguists and startled animal behaviors? No, we can't. Why? It is because the wording that is used here is too similar to the wording of the original source. The existence of a signing ape unsettled linguists. If the existence of a signing ape was unsettling for linguists. See how it's very similar? It's very clear this information came from this source. And basically what this writer did was just chop words out. This is not acceptable. So let's look at this second example. If the presence of a sign language using chimp was disturbing for scientists studying language, it was also surprising to scientists studying animal behavior. Is this considered acceptable use? No! Again, this is not. A reason for that is because, again, it's a close paraphrase. We can see that the structure of the sentence is still the same. All this writer has done, basically, is taken a thesaurus and changed a few words around. Right? If the existence of a signing ape was unsettling for linguists, if the presence, rather than existence, of a sign language using chimp, signing ape, was unsettling, was disturbing, for scientists studying language, for linguists, notice it's the same. They've basically just chosen different words. That is not acceptable. Our third example, then, version C. According to Flora Davis, linguists and animal behaviorists were unprepared for the news that a chimp could communicate with its trainer through sign language. This is okay. Notice that the sentence has been put completely into different language. The idea is still the same, and that's why we have an in-text citation, Davis 26, in the text itself, but it is within our own words, or at least the words of this writer. And although the information came from this source, it's completely in the writer's own words.